This is one frustrating chess puzzle. I will prove it by giving you 3 seconds for the solution. If you saw rook f1, you are right. But after black blocks, how do you proceed? Everything we can think of black can counter it. I will give you a hint and say, it's not a check. It's the great move queen e1. You see, black is forced to capture, since their queen is pinned to the king. If they were to ignore the problem, we would just end up with a positive trade. So we end up with a positive advantage. Now tell me, how would you continue from here? What would you play in this position? You see, it looks like there is so many possibilities for white, but only one move works. Let's break it down. You might think of rook h3, but black can easily defend that with f4 or bishop e7. But after black moves their rook to safety, there is no follow-up. What about rook g3? Black can defend that with bishop e8 and then proceeding with bishop g6. One last idea, bishop f4, to prevent pawn f4, but this meets the same counter. So what is the move? It's bishop h6. Black's best bet is bishop e8, because capturing would lead to checkmate. So does f4. So after black plays their best bet, we proceed with queen e7, threatening both checkmate and the rook. So after black defends it, we sacrifice the bishop. But what about rook g3? Black can just block. So after black captures the bishop, white has one more opportunity to go wrong. It's queen f8, which black can defend. So we just take, and we can now attack black's vulnerable pawns. What would you play in this position? It's one of those puzzles that after looking at the solution, you ask yourself, how did I miss that? I will give you 3 seconds. It's queen e5, a simple double attack. Black protects the bishop, sacrificing the rook for some counterplay and maybe trap the queen. But why not move the rook out the way? The answer is simple. Black's king would be really exposed, so after capturing the rook, you can still mess up. Don't get greedy and capture the pawn, because that would trap the queen. Instead, we move the queen to safety and we are now 3 points up. In this puzzle you have to stay accurate till the end. So what would you play? While not obvious, it's the move rook c7. Why? First of all, it stops the idea of queen c1 and threatens both rook c2 and queen c2. But white creates serious counterplay with pawn g5, and black can make the mistake of queen c2. Since after this sequence of moves white stops black's attack. An even worse mistake is rook c2, which gets your ling in serious danger. Instead, the correct move is h takes g5. But we can still mess up with rook c2 because of queen a7 check. Instead, the correct move is queen c to check. After the king flees, we threaten rook d1, and once again, we can still mess up, because after h6 check, if we were to capture the pawn, we would end up with a huge disadvantage. So the move is king h8, and after this sequence, we end up with a 2-point advantage. Only geniuses will solve this. We are trying to checkmate, but the queen is stopping us. You might think of something like bishop takes h2, but after bishop f6 check, we lose the queen. If we were to play knight f2, after a trade sequence, white would be threatening queen f6 check. Rook e1, even though bishop f6 wouldn't work in this line, rook takes e1 would leave us with a disadvantage. If you are wondering, why because bishop f6, it's because after this sequence of moves, we would end up keeping a piece. So what is the move? It's king g8, you might. Why? The reason is simple. Without bishop f6, white's position is overwhelming. White has to capture on g2. It's the only way to prevent the threats of capturing on h2 or checking on f2. And after rook e1, what should white play? If we block, we fall victims to a brilliant sacrifice of the horsey. So after king g2, this brings us to the end of this puzzle. Although knight e5 is still the best move, so things can be tricky. We just entered the middle of game, but we can pull off some amazing tactics. There are lots of tempting moves, like bishop g4 and knight d4, which look good, but white can easily deal with them. Even worse is knight takes d5, which gives up the chances of attacking h2 or f2 by going to g4. White is still up a pawn and has the chance to play queen h5 and knight c3 soon. Instead, the move we should play is pawn d4 is the only decent response for white, although you can leave other suggestions in the comments, and I will respond to them. Now, since we can no longer take the knight on g5, we have to move our knight out of danger. White proceeds to kick off the knight, and I will give you 3 seconds to find the move. You might think of going after the rook, but after this sequence of moves, white now threatens checkmate. Instead we sacrifice the knight, and after white takes back, we can now go after the rook, since we can now have a winning attack, with rook takes f2. How can you win the queen in this position? I will give you 3 seconds to find the right move. The move isn't very obvious, but we have to slowly limit the queen's space. With the move queen b6, see what that doesn't. Now white can't flee to these squares, but white is also in a possession of a brain and proceeds with the idea of capturing our bishop. In this position, if you are an advanced player, you will be able to find the move with ease. I will once again give you 3 seconds. It's the brilliant move, but before I reveal the move, consider subscribing, because at 1000 subs I will be making a Discord server. The move is knight b8. The only thing white can do is accept defeat and we win. In this position, we are trying to checkmate, but white's rook is stopping us. So how do we get rid of it? We start off with king b3. Threatening checkmate is a good way to start. White has to flee. If they were to check with their rook, we would be easily able to defend that, and after this sequence, we are threatening mate in 5. So after white flees, we proceed with rook d3. It's pretty straightforward. It prevents white's checks. In this position, white is forced to play rook h2. Write down in the comments why white can't play rook h1. After knight a2, white is forced to capture. Otherwise it would be checkmate. And after that we win. Black just made a mistake. So what's the right move to punish Black's mistake? You might think of capturing the rook, but that actually leads to the loss of our queen. Instead the move is rook a7 check. Black has to flee to b8 to avoid checkmate, and we now don't fall for tie tempting move of rook a1, because after this sequence of moves, we end up checkmated. Instead the move is rook d7, after black proceeds with rook g8 check. White responds with rook g7, threatening the f3 rook and invading black's king with the queen. After a trade of rooks, now if black was to proceed with rook f5, that would stop the threat of queen h5 but would give white the alternative of queen e4. But black is doomed anyway, because after playing the engine's best move, the threat of checkmate is inevitable unless black sacrifices their rook. Can you find the right move in this puzzle? You might be tempted to capture this pawn, but matter of fact, this puzzle is called Don't Touch the Pawn. With that in mind, we started with a pretty simple move, queen g4 check. The best place to be for the white king is h1. We then proceed with another check, queen h4. Write down in the comments why we can't play queen h5. White now flees. Pause if you want to find the right move in this position. Capturing the pawn is tempting, but this would simply allow white to defend. Instead the move is rook f8. But this begs the question, why can't white defend the same way they would if we were to take the pawn? After the sequence of moves shown on screen, we now have the threats of rook h4 check, rook f3 and even knight e3, so white is forced to play rook f1. Once again we don't fall for the tempting move of capturing the pawn, but instead land a check with queen g4. White can't block with their queen, and instead is forced to flee, and after trading rooks, the knight joins in. After the queen flees, we end up with a 3 points advantage.